Hi, Pat Ford here, and I want to discuss something very important in a real estate transaction, and that's who represents you. Buyer, if you're walking into a house and there's a real estate agent there, uh, please be aware that that agent has signed an agreement stating that he represents the seller. The option to be totally represented is to walk in with your own agent who will represent you. This form does discuss that, and you will be signing that in a real estate transaction. It gives you several options. The first one is to have a broker, a buyer's broker. And in that case, the broker has the fiduciary duties of loyalty, obedience, disclosure, confidentiality, and accounting dealing with you, the buyer. If you work with that seller's broker and he has not made another agreement with you, his duty is to give those same loyalty, obedience, disclosure, confidentiality, and accounting dealing with the seller. And if that is the only option, he is promising those duties to his seller. The third option, and that does happen often, or pretty often, is that the broker can represent both the buyer and seller. That becomes a more difficult, especially for me, because I have to give the same loyalty, obedience, and disclosure to my best of my ability to both parties. And if I disclose something that I know about the buyer, to the seller, I'd have to let you know, and I probably should let you know in writing, be very clear about it anyhow. And if I know something about the seller, I would have to get express permission from the seller to disclose that to you. And this line A says that without written authorization, I can't disclose that the seller will accept a price other than terms that are stated in the listing, or that the buyer will accept a price or terms other than offer. So I'm hoping, and I would love if I can represent you in a real estate deal. The other line on this that I would like to clarify, because a lot of people aren't aware of it, is that the brokers, the sellers, don't have an obligation to tell you if there was a death, a suicide, homicide, or a crime on the property, or if the property was owned by somebody with AIDS, or if it's located in the vicinity of a sex offender. It is very important, if those things are something that really matters to you, that you research it. You can ask the seller, and if the seller does know, he probably would tell you. This is the one form that you would sign. You would go down to these lines and you would select that you want to be represented by the agent on the form as the buyer or the buyer's broker, or if you are going to have them represent the seller as the seller's broker, or that if you agree that they can be an agent for both the buyer and seller and consent to limited representation. And the seller also would be filling out a similar form. Hope this was a piece of information you can use. Sorry if I started it a little bit, but I think it provides you some valuable information.